Hello, my name's Bill Gilbert. I'm one of the Northern New Jersey region of the Porsche Club of America Chief Driving Instructors, and welcome to today's online seminar. Today we're going to be talking about advanced driver skills and how one can assess those skills and work on improving them. The whole question of advanced driving and advanced driving skills, of course, is a very long topic, and I will try my best to simplify that a bit this afternoon, assuming I can find the PowerPoint here, which is not showing up. Let me try that again. Okay, maybe it's going to show up this time. There we go. All right. So, kind of before we dive in, I'm going to ask you to think a little bit about your skills and give you a way to, think about how good they are. And more importantly, I hope some tips and ideas about how to think about improving. So with that said, let's dive right in. As usual, the disclaimer that we've done our best to put good advice together here, but when we go on track, we all take those risks knowingly. So what are advanced driver skills? What are the skills that an advanced driver needs? Well, I think Ross Bentley has put it as clearly as anyone. The advanced stuff is just doing the basics better. In other words, there's no silver bullet. Much as you and I would like to know what that silver bullet is that makes a pro so much faster than us, the fact is they're doing the same things. They're working on the same things you and I are working on. They're just better at it. And if you've ever had an opportunity to ride with a pro, you've probably seen examples of that. But setting that aside, we can certainly identify what some of those skills are. And we took an attempt at doing that based on a lot of good sources of information, a couple of years ago, and put together what we call an advanced driver checklist. And I've given you the link here to that list. And there are three categories of skills listed there. The driving skills, all the things you would normally expect. Situational awareness and courtesy, a big portion of being on track and being safe is obviously knowing what's going on around us and responding appropriately. And then last but not least, and perhaps should be first, is a learning mindset, so that we approach going to the track in a way that we can get better. But all of that said, how would we go about assessing our current skills? Well, I've given you several possible ideas here. You can rate yourself and then kind of prioritize, pick the top two or three, the ones you do the best, pick the ones that you need to improve the most, and go from there. You can correlate that, if you like, with video and data. Or with instructor and coach rides. So there's lots of ways to get an assessment, but don't underestimate your just self-assessment ability to, go down the list and just give yourself a rating. Easy thing to do and a good place to start. But after we do that assessment, how are we going to get better? Well, standard advice, you've heard this kind of stuff lots of times. Pick two or three skills to focus on at a given event. No more than that. That's too much. Write down a plan for each one. As Ross Bentley and many others have pointed out, we tend to live up to what we write down, hence the need for the written plan. And then for each skill that you've picked, focus on that for at least one session. And then when you come in after, debrief immediately. Write down your notes on a track map and see what you learned. pretty simple process, right? But surprising how few of us actually take the time to go through this process. Now, if you're not sure where to start, here's one idea. I would suggest, if you're not sure, to focus on consistency, because we all need to be consistent if we're going to get better. We can't get better if we don't have that baseline to build on, which is a consistent lap. And vision. All of us can improve our vision skills. I don't care how good they are. So that's a great place to start if you're not sure. And don't forget about the safety related items, track conditions, and so on. And one caveat, the objective here isn't lap time. This is all about skills, improving specific skills, and lap time will take care of itself if we focus on the skills. Now, in the rest of what I've got put together for you here today, I have a series of tips and examples, and they're just intended to be that, examples in each of the skill areas that might get your brain going in terms of something for you to think about. And there's no magic here. There's no silver bullets. These are just things to think about. And if you really want to work on vision, there's plenty of resources out there, but you could write down a bunch of stuff yourself, probably just as well as I've done here. But that said, I'm going to quickly, and I mean quickly, go through these, just because they're not intended really for you to go away with all of these. They're intended to be, if you want to focus on vision, here's some things to think about. And same for the other skill areas that I'm going to talk about. So let's talk about vision. If we want to improve, one way to do that is to add reference points. Not just the normal ones of beginning and braking, turn in, apex, track out, but add in where your slow point, your VMAN point is. Add in end of braking, add in throttle application point, add in wide open throttle, and any others that you might want to do. Is we add more reference points, that helps our vision, it helps our consistency and everything else. And be sure to write them on the track map, before a session, if you think you know where they are, or should be, and then update that track map. It's a great way to make that vision get better session after session. You can also do a sensory input session where you go out for a session and your only focus is to see something new every lap. You're going to look a little further, you're going to look to the side a little more, whatever it is, but you're going to see more, and then you're going to come in and write those down on your track map. That's vision. Consistency. Just some questions to ask yourself. Do any of the corners not feel right or feel the same? Am I hitting my marks every lap within a couple of inches? And if not, why am I missing? Is my exit speed consistent, my entry speed? And again, if it's not, why not? And if you're looking at data, you can look at segment times, and you can scan down the list and see, are they quite consistent or do they vary a lot? And I'm sure you can think of lots more ways to think about consistency, but an incredibly important skill to continue to refine. Now, if you're thinking about, you're struggling with the line a little bit, well, there's things we can do to prepare in advance to look at track maps and descriptions and so on. But then write your own notes about, reference points or other things, and, mark up the track map. And then when you get on track, experiment a little bit. Can I get closer to the apex? Can I actually brush the curb? Or in some cases, can I run along the curb, for a longer distance? Maybe I should experiment and go a little bit earlier or a little bit later and see what I learn. One key test is, am I using every bit of the track at track out? Am I right up against the track out curb or even up on it, depending on what your objective is? If I'm not, if the car isn't taking me to that all the way out to the track out curb, then either I'm not going fast enough or I've turned in an apex too late. Again, things to think about. A common thing that is easy to fix. Am I crabbing in? Am I turning in a little bit earlier, not realizing, so I'm not using all of the track? Again, just examples to think about. If you want to focus on smoothness, think about where does the car feel unbalanced, in other words, uncomfortable, and think about why that would happen. You can always rate your use of the controls, 1 to 5, and ask yourself, can it be improved? And of course, all of us can improve our brake release, and many of us can improve on these other areas as well. Specifically in braking, when I get on the brakes hard in a threshold braking zone, does the car squat down nicely, or have I slammed on the brakes so that it pitches forward on its nose? Again, we can rate our smoothness, in less severe brake applications as well. And of course, the brake release. Can a passenger tell if when I take my foot off the brake? And am I varying that rate as appropriate for each corner? If we think about pace, what are things that can speed us up? Well, have I maximized my foot on the floor for every corner, wide open throttle? Have I got that as early as I can get it? If I really have, and many people that I see on track have not, but if you actually have, then it's time to work on entry speed, of course. And one thing that can help you with entry speed is if you're getting on the gas, even on maintenance gas, way before the apex in many corners, you're probably not carrying enough speed in. That's the Blaze coaching tip that many of you have heard, that is kind of new thinking for many of us over the last couple of years. If you're wanting to improve car control, well, being aware of, is PSM ever activating? That's a good place to start, because the PSM light does light up on Porsche dashboards in all iterations. And if it is activating, you want to eliminate that, because with the exception of the first generation systems, if that's activating, it's telling you you're doing something wrong. And more generally, how is my car feel in the corners? Is it, quote, sliding? That's the wrong term, of course, or technically not correct, but that's the way it feels to many of us. And am I steering the car with the gas pedal in some cases? So car control, feeling the car, a big deal. Now, beyond the driving, the kind of the core driving skills that we just quickly went through, there are the things that relate to situational awareness and safety and so on. And some of those are here and these are equally important if you're going to be safe and have a good time on the track. So use of the mirrors. Have I ever been surprised by a car behind? Do I recognize the really fast cars in my group so that I know I have to get my hand out sooner than if it's other cars? Part of that is, am I anticipating passes, both giving them and taking them? Catching a slower car in an area where there's no passing, isn't very helpful. Time that to catch them, where they can give you a signal. Have I ever given a late pass signal or taken one? Well, why did I do that? Most of the time, there's no reason for that. A common complaint, have I ever chopped off another driver, had somebody chop me off? Again, not what we want to see. And of course, have I ever been accused of aggressive driving? Well, if I have, then hopefully I've taken that to heart. But again, big part of being successful on track in a driver's ed situation. And related to safety, do I have a checklist during a warm-up lap of things I look at? Flag stations, runoff areas, pull-offs, all that stuff. Even if I know where they are, do I glance at them so that I've refreshed my memory and it's all fresh? And in case there is something going on that's different, I'm aware of it. Did I ever miss a flag? Well, most of us, can't say no to that. But if we ever did, we need to know why. Runoffs we just talked about. For flag stations, not only do I know where they are, but how soon can I see them? Not when I'm abreast, but how many flag stations can be seen a long distance in advance. The obvious risks on track. What does oil look like? What does antifreeze look like? And have I ever let the red mist take over to help me, where I wanted to really push for a lap time or catch another car? What did I really learn doing that? And was I really being safe, when I was, if I let the red mist take over? And then last but not least, kind of the learning mindset. Am I focused on learning? What's my goal for the event and for the session? Am I keeping notes so that I can reinforce that learning? And of course, there's a ton of resources. Pick the ones that work for you, whether that's a coach or instructor, video, data, videos like this one. There's plenty of books, articles, plenty of resources out there to help all of us get better. So in wrapping up, let me just come back to where I started and talk about what Ross Bentley says about what separates the best from the rest, using his words. I already emphasized that they focus on the basics because advanced is just doing the basics better. But the best, and he uses pro versus pro examples here, but it applies to the rest of us as well. They're committed to learning. They make learning an objective. They make improving an objective. And they know that the more they learn, the better they'll get. And of course, they prepare, because as you've seen in some of my examples here, these are things one can do before we show up at the track, to get us focused on the right things, and also to give us information we can take away and use for our next event. So just to summarize, how good are your skills? Well, you can assess them. There's lots of ways to do that I've given you. You can look at the checklist and pick, 1, 2, or 3 areas you want to improve on. I've given you some tips and examples here. You can, you can pick, the 1 or 2 areas you want to focus on, and make sure you don't get stuck. I mean, sometimes people get stuck on a plateau or stuck doing things a certain way. Make sure that doesn't happen to you. And sometimes that happens just unconsciously almost, where we drive a certain way and we almost have to have someone ride with us or look at data and say, hey, what you're doing here makes no sense, and kind of break you out of that rut. But of course, we come to the track to have fun. So none of this should be detracting from having fun. It should be part of our process of having fun. So with that, as always, if you have any questions or comments, I'm happy to respond via email, and as well as at the track. I certainly look forward to seeing you at the track, and on any track I happen to be at. So again, thank you for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you at the track soon.